Call the meeting to order at 6 P.M. Pursuant to Governor Baker's
I
March
think it's
12,
crazy that it's
2020 order
crazy.
suspending
Mhm.
certain provisions of the open meeting law, GL chapter 38, section 18, and Governor Healy's March 29, 2023 revised order extending remote participation by all members in any meeting of a public body. This meeting of the Select Board and Finance Committee will be conducted both in person and via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and our parties with a right and a requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website. Committee members and members of the public may attend this meeting in person or remotely. Instructions for remote participation, remote access to be found at the top of this agenda. Every effort will be made to ensure that those attending remotely can access proceedings in real time via technological means. Pursuant to MGL 7C 38, section 20F, after notifying the chair of a public body, any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of the meeting of a public body and may transmit the meeting through any medium. At the beginning of the meeting, the chair shall inform other attendees of any such recording. This meeting is being recorded by the Berkshire Eagle, the Berkshire Edge, CTSB, and the town of Great Barrington. The listing of agenda items for those reasonably anticipated by the chair which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. So we're gonna start the meeting by what we said we would do last night, which is to discuss meeting dates. So first, got it.
Starting the right way.
So, last night we briefly discussed moving through the dates. The first one is the budget overview meeting that currently is scheduled for the 20th. I'd like to move that out to March 11th.
Which one? The 20th, 2/20 to March 11, you said?
Correct.
This is
What
the
day of the week is that? March 11,
Tuesday.
Tuesday? Um,
Do you want to
No,
call of hands?
I'm just waiting for me. I'm just waiting to hear someone say it's my cousin's birthday.
It works.
Great.
I have a question then. That's gonna go after the public hearing?
No, we're gonna do the public hearing next.
All right, I'll wait and hear that.
Good question.
Good question, excellent one.
So I'd like to move the public hearing, which is March 5th to March 25th.
I will not be able to attend that one.
That's, so yeah, we definitely want the finance committee to.
Mhm.
On March, what day again?
25.
Yeah.
Is that week bad, Elena?
Yeah, I am traveling and it's gonna be 2 weeks, unfortunately, and, I'm not sure if I can.
When's your vacation start? Because
Okay, I mean, you know what, if I can get back to you, Chris, exactly the dates, I think it starts on the 20, flying out on the 24th, I think so, but I would just confirm with you. And then,
no, we specifically kept that week off on the way then.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll wait till we can decide.
yeah,
You couldn't do the 1st of April or the 2nd of April, Elena, either, right?
no, because I'm out for those 2 weeks and it just would be difficult for me to, participate with very unquestionable connection, so.
Um,
It's just fun.
And that's a Thursday. No.
Day to The warrant is Monday, April 14th.
So we could do the. That week, the 8th.
What is the week of the 8th look for people?
8th of April?
April 8th would be the only day.
We don't seem to have anything.
That works. So March 11th and April 8th.
Well, we'd obviously like to have everyone at the meeting, but we all acknowledge that it will be hard to find another date where everyone can make it.
Can we find April 8th?
So April 8th, I'm sorry.
April 8 works for me, yeah.
For the public, for the public?
Yes. Okay, Aaron.
That would be the public hearing.
And the other meeting is what?
March 11th, Tuesday.
April 8th is fine with me. That's.
And it's a Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday.
And
maybe it won't be
Thursday.
So maybe it's not
No,
now.
You don't want to miss that.
because then we go to Michael.
So
That was
April
okay.
8th, not the 8th.
Okay, so
And
next week, the 18th regular. Then we have March 11th. Then April 8th. It'll give us plenty of time, and if you need another meeting in there somewhere, at least we have a little bit of
Right.
cushion.
yeah,
Not everybody might be available.
Okay, tab 6. Page 9. Conservation.
This is a pretty straightforward budget for you this year, the Conservation Commission. The one change here will be one of these special one-time uses of funds of the accumulated wetlands fees to pay for approximately half of the agent's salary budget. We can use wetlands fees for work related to enforcing and administering the Wetlands Protection Act, and it seems to be a good equivalent for what the agent's doing. So what we would do for the budget is print the budget as is here with the line fully funded. At town meeting, there would be a special article before the operating budget that says, we would like to appropriate X funds, $20,000 from the conservation fund this year only. If that passes, then this line can be amended down.
At the time.
Can I ask you,
Does that make
Chris,
sense, everybody?
what is the purpose of the wetland fund? What is what is it supposed to be used for?
Anything related to administering the Wetlands Protection Act.
Okay,
It's accumulated filing fees.
oh, fines, accumulated fines?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Filing fees.
Oh, filing fees, okay.
so
And fines too, I would imagine, right?
have these been just accumulating over the years and not used for other purposes?
They have been, that's right. I mean, we do use them, for small purposes, related to that, but we've never used it in such a large lump sum. And, you know, we just can't do that every year. So
Right.
This would just be
Okay.
the one.
And you're just using 50% of it and leaving the 50?
Yeah.
In the
we
fund?
Deplete the fund so much that, you know, it would be, we wouldn't be able to do it next year. But it's a good use of fund, the commission, commission agrees with that. And our agent is here if there's any other questions.
Do we not have any trails in this town? Is not a trail considered from, Red Question Lake? And,
We do have a lot of trails.
but we're not maintaining them, we need to
We-
maintain them.
We do maintain them, you know. For large stuff, you know, a tree falls down over a trail, we're able to call out buildings and grounds crews. You know, if we need a chainsaw or something. But it's a good time to note that a lot of our trails are maintained by land conservancies,
Yeah.
nonprofits, and volunteer groups at no cost to the town. So it's a nice time to thank them for all their work.
Anyone else on conservation? Planning board, page 10.
Few small cuts proposed here to training, office supplies, and dues and subscriptions.
Zoning board of appeals, page 11.
The cut here to the board primarily because the ZBA has been meeting like once or twice a year, and I can do the minutes.
Hmm.
So it's not really needed to be funded here. If it was a more active board, we would want to fund that. There's no reason to do that.
So are the board clerks basically used to just keep the minutes for the particular, whatever committee?
Do, take the minutes, and public hearing notices, but that can all be done through the administrative.
Okay.
All right, I'll share this.
Well, planning, community development.
Few cuts proposed here in my department budget. Primarily, you see a cut in contracted services. Currently, that's being used to pay for, in this current fiscal year as a match to, some grants that we have. Those grants won't continue into the next year. We don't necessarily need that funding at that level anyway. The other cut is in the economic development line. And that's because we're going to be able to fund that difference out of the downtown cultural district grant.
Is the community director the same as the assistant town manager? That's the way it says, okay.
He's also the acting.
I understand that, how is it possible to do both full-time jobs by one person?
Both the assistant town manager and community development director.
Yes.
The position was created, I want to say, in 2019, 2020, as a position. I think as the community development director position evolved, so much of it involved work in concert with the town manager's office. Capital planning, large-scale planning, grant administration, associated legal work with town meetings, easements, large projects. And at the time, so much of it was an overlap. It seemed, the town manager in consultation with the select board saw that it was an opportunity to create sort of expand the duties of the director position and the assistant town manager.
So you have a lot of hats.
I do.
You do. Very good.
Can I just ask him some clarification on the contracted services? So you saying, yeah, it was 10, we voted on 10,000 for the current year. We haven't used any this year, and we only used 2,000 in fiscal year 24, so why 5,000?
We'll use the 10 for FY25. It's
Yeah.
required to meet the match of this particular grant. We just haven't spent it out yet.
Okay,
But we will use that 10.
okay,
But we don't have that grant in the next year. It was
Okay.
specific to some Lake Mansfield and open space planning work. And so 5 there is a placeholder in case we need to hire somebody to assist with project or economic development work, housing work.
Do you have any memory why we spent so little into 2024?
I believe that was related to a brownfields grant where we, I believe, may have hired staff from Berkshire Regional Planning Commission to help us administer that grant.
Oh,
I
I'm
have
not,
to go back and look at that.
yeah, I'm actually, I guess I'm just wondering, I mean, you said the 5,000 is a placeholder, and we're looking for places to cut.
Mhm.
Would 3,000, if we worried that that would just be,
I don't have a specific plan for that
Right.
5,000.
right, no, right, so I guess I'm just sort of saying, if 2,000 was sufficient in 2024, could this be a line where we brought it down to say 3,000 or 2,500?
It could be, as I said, I don't have a specific plan for that.
Questions, comments, motion? Page 22, consolidation. Give us a little overview of the government, the changes in it.
I'm Joan, the director of Barrington Senior Center. So pretty much the budget for the Council on Aging has remained as it was. We did do some level funding as was requested. So we've lowered a few things. Our equipment maintenance we lowered and we made an adjustment to the van drivers. And the only other one that I had put a lower figure in for was for our activities. And I will note that our activities, the spending that we had for it is a little low. The previous year, and this year, because I was fortunate enough to have some grant money that I could use for some of my activity funds, which of course means that I can turn a little bit more back into free cash for our budget. But those were the only changes really that we made.
Okay, so, so the grants that funded the activities in 24 and 25, those grants are over or?
One, yes, one is over.
Okay.
One is one that's used for a multitude of things. Part of it will be for activities, but also, possibly for, offsetting some of the, outreach salary. I thought we could use some of that grant that I have. I just don't know how, secure our grants are for moving forward.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay. And then looks like you had requested 7,176, but the budget line is 8,189. Was that a discussion that you thought the 7,176 wouldn't be enough, or I'm just wondering?
So that was the town manager's suggestion.
That's level service, right?
Yeah.
Versus level funded.
Right, that was level service.
Can I ask you about the outreach salaries? What,
Just one person.
and so we didn't really have a full-time person in 2024,
We don't
correct?
have a full-time person, she's part-time.
But I mean, there's a big change in terms of the,
I didn't have anybody,
right?
as an outreach coordinator in the past.
And what is the role of outreach coordinator?
Well, she does everything. She answers phones, she fields questions for me with our seniors. She directs them to resources within the building if I can't get to them.
Mhm.
So as it stands right now, previous to her, we had a part-time administrative assistant and myself. The building really needs more than one person running the building.
So that was the 2024 arrangement you had was your admin and
Was only, and
Yeah,
then,
okay.
and then we added the outreach coordinator.
I see, okay. And that's a full-time position?
No, they're both part-time.
They are both
positions.
part-time, okay.
Well, the admin assistant is a shared position between myself and the fire department.
Okay, and the outreach,
She's a part-time.
part-time, okay.
19 hours.
Admin deals mostly with internal admin duties, while
Correct.
outreach is customer service.
Yes.
You know.
I'm sorry, so the half of the admin that you have. Does the fire department have this person for their?
Yes.
Another half?
Same position that I previously held.
Okay,
It's mornings at the fire department and afternoons at the senior center.
all right.
Mhm.
Now, question, do you, are you coordinating at all, with the, adjacent housing authority, property in terms of? And sort of staffing needs or sort of, usage of the property? In other words, I happen to be on the housing authority board, so
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if, what kind of coordination or communications are there? They have a new executive director.
They're just starting to reach out.
Right.
Yeah. They've been in the building a few times to use space. If that's what you're
They
asking.
being the executive
The
director?
housing, the
Yeah,
Great Barrington Housing, staff,
right, okay, the staff of the housing authority.
correct.
Okay,
To have meetings with the residents.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, okay,
Anybody that lives that close to the building, lots of them come to the senior
Sure,
center on a
sure,
regular
sure.
basis.
okay, well, just going forward, I just wanna make sure whatever way we can coordinate and make things work better, we should do that.
Yeah, definitely. I'm all for it.
I'm just kind of curious as an exercise, would the programming look like? The difference between the level service number of 8189 versus the level funded number of 7176, like. That difference in budget, what would that mean? the
For activities?
program? Yeah, for activities.
Yeah, I'm sure that, with some of the grant funding I have, I would be fine. Which is why I put that in.
I'm just looking at that number, it looks like FY25 is the same.
Right.
Right, I didn't change anything.
Right, but level funded went lower,
Right,
so really the town manager recommended is level funded.
correct.
Right.
Okay.
which is-
Right, I lowered it.
I'm not sure. Oh, you lowered it.
I did, only because I knew that I had some going through the grant. Yeah.
So you would be able to offer the same level of activities
I could.
at that 7,000?
Correct. Correct.
Could you talk about volunteers at the senior center? Do you utilize volunteers?
I have tons of volunteers, probably 28 volunteers for the senior center.
And any of those do part of what the outreach does, or phone calls or?
Not really. The ones that I have, so I have a good number that are a part of our daily congregate meal. So those staff are needed for that. And the other volunteers that I have are all running specific programs.
So they are running some of the
They
activities.
volunteer to do specific programs, whether it be tech help, whether it be an art class,
Mhm.
whether it be, yeah,
Okay.
specifics.
Yeah.
And are you, are you tracking usage of the center, the number of people visiting on
Yeah.
a daily basis?
We're up from last year, like 100% on almost everything across the board.
Okay,
Yeah, lunches, exercise classes are over, I think it's over like 400% increase. I mean, it's a huge difference in this past year. Excuse me?
What do you attribute that to?
I'm doing a lot of outreach to people and the newsletter has really been packed with a lot of information for them. Using my Facebook account a lot. Yeah, and I go around the town's, buildings as far as public buildings and, leave newsletters out and about for people to see what's happening. Yeah.
And what is,
And word of mouth, I mean, it's a lot of word of mouth. People have been very happy with what I've done this past year, so it's invited a lot more people to come. Yeah,
so what was, sorry.
Okay.
What is your capacity? I mean, when you say 400%, that seems a lot, but like how many people would you
Well,
have
you
in the
have to,
center?
you have to
Daily.
realize that, it took a while to recuperate from COVID,
Sure, yeah,
right? It was very slow in the senior population to recuperate from
Right.
that. But it's really booming. There's oftentimes there's not a parking place to be found at the center.
but like, for example, just to give me an idea, because I don't really know.
There's a
enough.
lot of rooms, so I don't know what the total capacity.
What would you say, like, for example, if you guys offer lunches, are you talking about 50 people,
It
500
depends the
people?
day, it depends the day. I mean,
Roughly.
I have volunteers that cook for us. On
Mhm.
those days, we can have 40 to 50 people in there for lunch.
Okay,
I have, the rest of the days are, run by, Meals from Elder Services, and we can have anywhere from 12 to 22 people
Okay.
a day. It really varies.
okay, that
Yeah.
gives me some idea, yeah. okay.
Yeah, but the exercise classes are like 25, some of them are 30 people.
Mhm.
It's busy. It's wonderful. Yeah.
There was a spell where it was a great social space for my father to be there. And so I really appreciate everything that happens there. And like you're saying, during COVID, the downturn, it was pretty devastating for my father on multiple levels. So I really appreciate that we have a robust system down there and appreciate everything you do. And also the amount of volunteers and all the courses that were there. So this is something, same as, I think the seniors should get this level funding. I'm pretty excited that we can offer that and everything you do, so.
Thank you.
I'd like to echo that myself. I know we have to make budget cuts and everything is very difficult when we look for places. But I'm actually the senior most person on this board. Our town in the last count had 23.9% seniors.
We're higher now.
I think it's
I think we're 30
a
something.
must to have all the services that we have. Heck, I think I'm coming down there to make it 31 for it.
Nice. Thank you. Anybody else?
If another organization, well, do other organizations use the space
Yeah.
in off hours for some kind of?
Yes,
event?
lots of after-hour groups are paying money to use.
That was my
space.
question. So where does that money go on that?
Goes into our building usage fund.
It goes into does it go?
No, it's an account that's for the town. It's a building usage
Okay,
account.
all right, so it's not, just from terms of how we track it, that's all I'm really asking.
Doesn't go into my
Right,
budget at all.
but do you, just curious, do we have any idea of the order of magnitude of that?
I have a lot of groups that use that building.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I have groups that come once a month. We have AA groups that are there every week. We have the Historical Society, we have the Veterans Organization is there. We have a lot of meetings. in
Okay,
the building.
good.
Yeah,
Good, okay,
it's good usage of our space.
great, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's hard.
It's a lovely park.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Page 24, library.
You
Hi.
Also use the table if it's more comfortable for you.
Okay. I'm Dawn, I'm your library director. And we can see our budget here. The town manager recommended budget does cover our obligations to the state so that the town will retain its library certification. And I spent the last few days, I've spent a lot of hours looking at numbers and library costs in our area. And I just want to say briefly that Great Barrington Library is approval, and that you are getting a good value, whether you look at it as cost per capita or percentage of the total municipal budget for your money. I've spent a lot of time looking at area libraries, so I can say that with confidence. And I brought some statistics and I'm ready to answer your questions.
All right.
Yeah, so I remember last year, we had a long discussion about the ebooks and electronic materials, and we, I think that budget was increased, now it's, 74,000. And so far, about 30 has been used, and I'm just wondering, is this the right amount for ebooks?
Part of ebooks goes in that budget.
Uh-huh,
The ebooks that you would read on Libby
Right.
go in that line, but e-audiobooks, which are actually more expensive, go in the line that says non-print. So it's kind of split up. And there's always a delay in these numbers.
So
So
you
for
think we'll be
example,
at
I
that
just
number?
submitted to Ally bills for, I don't know, $3,000 or $4,000 worth of books that is not reflected here. So there's a delay there.
okay, and is that true for subscriptions too?
Yeah, subscriptions come at odd times. It's
Okay, so
not
you're
like,
not one of the, because a lot of subscriptions start at the start of the.
no,
fiscal
no,
year.
they come in weird, like some will be due in September and some will be due in May.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's subscriptions for, it's not just like magazine subscriptions, for example, our subscription to the New York Times. And that's one of our most popular items. People read it from home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly know a lot of people are using the e-books and the e-audiobooks from the libraries.
Have you been seeing a rise in subscription rates as well as the cost of ebooks and print books?
I wouldn't say that the cost of those digital materials is going up. In fact, they've given us some new options. For example, if there's something that's really popular, and to get it for 24 months, say, would be $70. I may have the option to buy 2 of them for 12 months for half that amount each. So $70, I get 2, and then the 20 people that are waiting will get them quicker. Because our patrons will get those first. But we don't own them, and when the time is up, we have to buy them again. So I wouldn't say it's going up, but they are certainly more expensive than print books.
And I guess with the talk about the digital books and non-print materials, do you see with the rise of those uses, a lowering of people showing up at the libraries?
No, actually, since 2022, each year our business has gone up.
Yeah.
But print circulation has gone down. So print circulation is going down as digital circulation is going up. And that includes, yes, Libby things, and it includes the New York Times and other kinds of databases that people are using.
Let me ask you, how do you establish the days and hours open at the two libraries? How are you determining how many days you want to be open?
Honestly, they are the same as before I just got here, and we haven't really talked too much about changing them. I think we're open 48 hours, or actually, I think it's 68 between the 2 libraries. And we do see about 280 people per day between the 2 libraries, so that's quite a lot. That's an average. So some days are more, some days are less. So, you know, I know that Donna can tell you a little bit more about which days are most popular. Like when we were closed on Mondays at Mason due to lack of staff. We were closed for about the first 4 months that I was there. People were knocking on the door every day, all day. And the same with Ramsdale. We had to unfortunately close Ramsdale for a lot of its hours during that period, 2023 to 2024, when there was such low staff. And so now people are getting used to the fact again that it's open and numbers are going up.
Can I ask you, what is the difference between Mason and Ramsdale in terms of the numbers? Like, how many people would be using Mason versus Ramsdale?
It's a pretty vast difference. If you, but the collection is different, right? So at Mason, there's, I think, like 70,000 items, and up at Ramsdale, there's 20.
Right, yeah.
I think it makes more sense to look at Ramsdale compared to a library closer to its size. So, for example, look at Stockbridge. Okay, Stockbridge actually has twice the population of Housatonic. Plus, it's right on the main drag there, right? Like even before I knew even before I moved here, I know where Stockbridge was, everybody knows where it is. Housatonic is off a little bit, but still Housatonic has about, close to 40%, I'd say, of the visits and the circulation of Stockbridge.
I know, but I mean, I would still want to know the difference between Mason and Ramsdale.
Between
terms of
Mason
the-
and Ramsdale,
yeah.
well,
The Stockbridge is it's different animal altogether. for
it is a
different reasons.
different
Yes,
animal
yes.
altogether.
Different demographics and different
Right.
reasons for things, yeah.
So let's see, for example, do you want visits, circulation?
Well, whichever metric you have there, just to give me an idea on for the level of activity in Mason versus.
Okay, so
Ramsdale,
if
that's
I
all.
extrapolate out visits for this year, by taking what we have now and dividing by, you know, where we are in the year, there will be 76,000 visits over here and almost 5,000 at Ramsdale.
Okay, that's, I think,
Yes,
it's pretty,
yes.
yeah.
And then circulation kind of follows in the same proportion.
right, yeah. Okay, great, thank
So are
you.
you saying that there's 76,000 visits to Mason?
I'm saying that's if last year was
If she extrapolates,
66,000.
Right,
I anticipate this year to be 76, because what I did was took our visits so far and divided by
Just extrapolate,
0.58,
yeah.
because that's where we are in the year.
Yeah.
And that's 76, yeah.
I mean, you have some seasonals, I would imagine some seasonal changes, but that's just
It
kind
is,
of a,
like,
yeah,
so
yeah,
right
yeah.
now it's slower, in the summer it's much
Yeah.
busier.
I know,
Roughly,
the,
yeah.
kind of, you're talking about the hours that Ramsdale being an issue during the staffing shortages, is that still a perception that you feel like you're trying to overcome, actually people understanding?
That we're actually open.
That when Ramsdale is open?
Yeah, I think it's just as it took people a very long time to understand that Mason was closed on Mondays. It's taking people a long time again to learn that Ramsdale is open, but I can see a very, you know, a steady increase in the numbers at Ramsdale, so.
Okay.
now I understand that this has been in existence for a while, but the cost of the buildings is not in your budget, right?
Exactly,
They're in the DPW budget,
yes,
but are you generally aware of what those costs are? Or do you,
I don't, you would have to ask
That would
Joe,
be, that would be Joe.
yeah.
I understand that, but.
Yeah. And I also think that it's difficult, like he could tell you the energy costs probably, but then there's other costs like, things like fixing the heating system that, you know, are paid for with grants, and there's things that are unanticipated, so.
Okay,
Thank you.
Bill, come on, sit down, get comfortable. Buildings and grounds, we start with page 13. This line will be there. I plan on you to go off.
Never, I think, can be.
Thank you.
I think we're ready.
210.
So, if I could just offer a thought. The DPW budget does have a slightly different concept than some of the other town budgets. We have a lot of unknowns that fluctuate costs. With utilities, how big snowstorm's gonna have, how many trees are gonna come down, things like that. So, the variable items of the budget are developed using kind of the historical information and what we know of the systems and the buildings and stuff like that. So with that said, buildings and grounds, we have 7 guys that have boots on the ground. And, you know, the DPW also shares between highway, buildings and grounds and wastewater as needed. This budget covers 11 buildings, cleaning, maintenance, all the different types of operating systems, heating, air conditioning, fuel sources, alarm systems, and so on. It is important to note that we don't have a plumber, electrician, HVAC technician on staff. We attempt to do all this ourselves and then hire help. We have 6 cemeteries with 91 acres of mowing, trimming, and spring and fall cleanups. We have 26 parks, 17 of them need mowing, spring and fall cleanups, garbage removal. 17 of these parks consist of 82 acres of mowing and trimming. I'll just give you the magnitude of what the 7 guys do. I don't know if you want to start with questions or you want me to just kind of hit.
No, I think just, you know, there's some places there that have gone up, so I think I would get those and give an explanation.
But we wanted to point the lines. Yeah, okay. On the upper portion, the majority of those items are, you know, really directly tied to our collective bargaining agreement. There is an item in there for intern that's gone up substantially. And basically the intent of that is to get 2 to 3 college age kids starting somewhere around Memorial Day to work through Labor Day to assist with the grounds and the grounds maintenance and care. Quite often we turn around and we can't get to everything, and then we tend to disappoint people in the cemeteries, or we tend to disappoint the people in the ball fields. So that's what that is. Overtime is kind of a variable thing. Again, that's all, a lot of issues, call-ins and different activities that happen.
Can I ask a question? You went down on the overtime, and is that because of the interns you think can make up for some of the place where you used to be in the past?
It can, yeah. We have 1 intern now from the high school. The downside of that is his age. He's not allowed at his age to be on equipment.
Mm,
So, you know, he's, you know, doing a lot of manual labor and things like that. So our goal, if we get the budget approved, would be to, you know, kind of target 18 and older. And see what we could do, and depending on the type of intern, maybe bring him into, you know, some learning items for him too, in the sense that show there is possibility for employment in municipalities.
Since you're at the top part of this section, can I just ask more specifically about the overtime costs? What kinds of things do you do that are gonna generate or require overtime?
No snow and ice typically is in this overtime. We have a snow and ice overtime,
Okay,
but it can be, you know, work on projects that aren't complete. It can be trees down in cemeteries. It could be opening up the cemeteries if there's an issue, for a service.
usually something that's an urgent need.
This group will take care of all the calls for the 11 buildings that we have. If we get a call that the library is without heat or the police station is without heat or the fire department, they go. Sometimes we can handle it, sometimes we get there, we have to call it. Someone else. So
Mhm.
it's kind of variable. As you can see, we're kind of running a little under this year,
Mhm.
but come springtime, we do spend a fair amount of time with spring cleanups that requires overtime, just to get the parks and the ground ready for summer. You don't have your cemeteries, ready for Memorial Day, and I'm a favorite person.
Yes, I've had that.
And, you know, there's even push at times to be ready for Mother's Day. So, that's some of the biggest calculated overtime.
Well, thank you for reminding us of all those important overtime activities. Thank you.
So down into expenses, the buildings and grounds repairs, is a substantial one. Again, it's something we can't control, because we don't know when a heating system is gonna break, a plumbing system is gonna break. We've had quite a few of those issues this year. Half the fire station was without heat for a period of time. We had to replace, the cooling unit in the fuel station server room to keep the cold and temperature oriented. So there's things like that that go into that. And, you know, I have to tell you this, we're fixing things the right way. In the past, it was, you know, let's turn around and just turn this boiler off and we'll let that boiler handle it. You know, we had an issue recently as we went into that last cold spell, that 2 of the isolation valves on the Mesa boiler failed. So as we go into the cold spell,
you really need two of the boilers to keep that building up to temperature.
Mm.
And we made it with one barely.
Mm.
We're able to get in there the next day and fix it.
Mm.
So, those are the costs, and we didn't turn around and we didn't try to, MacGyver a fix. We fixed it the right way,
Mm.
replaced the valves, so they're ready and we're gonna get 20 years old.
Can I ask you something? Do you see, I mean, I can tell like you have a certain trend happening here and you're looking out. But do you find some of the buildings giving you more of a headache than others that need more maintenance for various reasons, whatever the reasons are, but there are some buildings that the town owns that are a bit more problematic than others?
It's typically the older systems.
Mhm.
Before we replaced the Ramsdale boiler, we were there 3 days a week.
Hmm.
Now that we replaced it, we're there once a month.
Mhm.
So it's the older systems, and if I could point out. You have that line item where buildings are ground repair, and 2 down, you have contracted services.
Right.
Yes.
So, and you notice that one is substantially under. Okay, so. As I mentioned, we don't have plumbers, we don't have electricians, and, trades like that on staff, so. When you call a plumber to come in and fix something. He's performing maintenance on a building. The building's ground maintenance, or is that contracted services? Okay, so those 2 line items,
Mhm.
to me, and it depends who's coding the bill and writing the PO. Tend to overlap each other substantially. My request, if this board agrees, because not only do we want transparency, but I want to turn around and be able to manage the buildings and the grounds and know what the costs are. If someone said to me, like Phil asked the library, do you know what the Ramsdale cost is?
Mm.
I do. I do on that one only because I did it.
Mm.
But it'd be nice to turn around and take those 2 line items and make them one line item.
Right,
Buildings and grounds repairs.
right.
Okay, well, I should say, I would like to turn around and have buildings repairs and grounds repairs. So we know what our buildings costs are, we know what our grounds costs are.
Right,
That has more value to me.
right. And do you have the information, the numbers for how much it costs us to maintain the different buildings here?
Do not, and I've had
You
the
do not.
conversation with Ally, and
Uh-huh.
there's a way we can. What was it, a suffix or a prefix, we were thinking we could put on the account number for building. But that may cause a lot of work,
Oh,
because if we turn around and we write, purchase order to Kamali Electrician to do some of our electrical work,
right.
and we code it to the building's account. And I have 11 suffixes. Do I have to write 11 POs? So it causes a lot of paperwork, so
Right.
I'm sure it's worth it.
Okay, so basically what we are saying, we just don't have that information today and it will be difficult to get it.
What you have to do is like I did with
Yeah.
Ramsdale, because I was asked a while ago, what does Ramsdale cost on a yearly basis?
Mhm.
And we did, and it's about $57,000.
To maintain it annually.
That's heat, that's electricity, that's grounds maintenance, that's basic building maintenance and cleaning. That's
Mhm.
not something going wrong.
Right, this is your basic,
Just to
keeping it, yeah.
Snow shoveling.
Right,
Cleaning
yeah.
during the workday. So, there's some of that's basic, no matter how much they use it. They
Right,
use it 1 day a week, it's still $57,000. They use it 10 days a week, or 7 days a week, it'll go up because you're heating it more.
right. Yeah,
Joe, can I ask a question? I'm sorry.
no, go ahead, please, yeah.
Do you keep a file folder on all the buildings?
We do have a folder on the building. It's really more of improvements that were done on things that need to get done.
I was thinking if you can't code 11 things, can't you have Ramsdale, for instance, or just use that?
Right, right.
And when you're doing an invoice, make a copy of some sort or
It's
scan it and then, it just goes in that folder. I mean,
That's very doable, but it comes down to, we have a DPW administrative assistant that functions for 4 departments.
All right,
And this person's day is full.
yeah.
So
Well, we may be asking for the world, but you'd be able to have a better idea. And maybe if it's too, cumbersome for someone like Ally or you to be categorizing, having one old fashioned folder.
and it's
Seems
easy to
like-
go add it up.
Yeah.
I don't disagree, that's valuable information. I don't want the work effort to outweigh the value, that's all.
Because I think it really, in a way, that will give you the true picture, when we are looking at the different department budgets. I mean, we look at just the operating, but there is also the fixed part of it, right?
Yep.
The other thing I was kind of thinking is, what will be interesting to see, and I don't know if it's possible now, to see the amount of grants those different departments receive, so that will give us again the total picture of really what is it we are spending on a certain department or activity, even if it's funded from other resources. Because I think it's hard to make those decisions, if we are really using the resources in the most effective way for the town, because we don't really have the full picture here, yeah.
There is a reoccurring grant, through, it's a Green Communities grant, it's an energy efficiency grant. When I came in, Chris had some already secured that we executed. We've been successful getting them since. We are finishing up the Mason Library with the building management system and getting all the elements of the HVAC system back up and running, so the building runs efficient, which will save us fuel.
Right,
So we were successful in getting the grant for that. We missed around with the police department. So the next grant round is in the fall. And we will probably look at funding possibly who's kind of community center HVAC system and upgrading that. A couple of these systems, like the oil, Ramsdale Library and Wisconsin Center, we have 3 tanks, and in the cold weather, we fill them every 2.5 weeks.
Mm.
So we don't know if that goes.
Mm.
So, there's improvements out there, there's grants out there, and by all means, the more we know, we'll go after them.
Is your idea to divide things up by grounds and buildings, is that a doable plan? Is that something that can be done?
I think if this group is acceptable, I think we just take the 410 item and the 700 item. And we make one grounds, and we make one building, we divvy up the funds that are approved. And we just function that way. Now, at least we can run a report and get all the buildings in one report and then sort through to determine the building.
It seems like it would be easier to know what the building maintenance costs are as opposed to what all the grounds upkeep is, right?
But I think that would be a good segue into learning more, and managing and being more transparent with where our costs are being spent. We can figure it out. Get into it more on our sleeves, but I mean, that's a simple way to do it, and have a deeper discussion with Ally to see if the suffix, putting a suffix on is doable. I mean, it does mean some initial more purchase orders and things like that, and diligent coding. It's doable.
Because you don't really, I mean, how many buildings we talking about here?
And that-
Sorry, 11, so.
So you could have 11 folders.
I mean, it seems that.
That seems
should-
doable.
Should be doable, yeah, definitely.
I mean, if the folder gets a 1/2 inch or 1 inch thick, then something's not.
If, I don't know if we're discussing it this time or at a different one, but the building assessments that we were doing, did we get any updates or new ones for this past year or?
That was capital.
Yeah.
And if I rough numbers, I think you approved 4 different buildings. And the total between those 4 different buildings, like $184,000.
Mhm.
We did very little on that list. So this year's capital, I'm not asking for anything more than that, because we've had that money. And, again, it's tied to the 7 guys and run the horsepower.
Yeah.
So what we're in the process of preparing now is bid packages for electricians, plumbers, painters. So that we can turn around and take one of our people, tag team them with the electrician and go out and handle electrical.
Mhm.
So to answer your question, well, to answer your question more directly, there are 3 more buildings that we're expecting asset management evaluations in the next week or so.
Yeah.
So we'll have, at that point, I think we'll have 8.
Eight of
And
us.
some of them, don't need to be done.
Right.
You know, the buildings and grounds office, that doesn't need to be done.
Yeah.
So I think there might be 1 more we want to do.
Joe, I'm sorry for the benefit of the broader audience. Could you just walk through the 11 buildings?
So what?
Can you list the 11 buildings?
Sure. Ramsdale Library, Housatonic Community Center, Housatonic Fire Station, the transfer station, the Buildings and Grounds Office, Great Barrington Fire Department, the courthouse, town hall, senior center, and Great Barrington Police Station. Mason Library. I went East Street.
I know you missed that.
Actually, if I could dovetail on that, didn't we invest some money in upgrading the courthouse last year? Did we? I thought we did.
We did do some over there. I have a package right now being prepared. We're kind of dragging our feet a little bit because our lease agreement isn't finalized. So the
Oh, it
additional
hasn't
funding
finalized.
is.
Tried to.
Okay,
Mm.
we're real close on that. And then we're gonna get paid the back money too.
Yeah, weren't we, I'm not criticizing you, but weren't we close to that lease being?
Last year.
finalized
Last year,
It's all in the
exactly.
state hands. Mark, or one of his goals to get done before he left, and it's just,
Okay, so
it's nothing to done, it's just, the state doesn't move.
Okay.
And they move in mysterious ways.
I
And
hear
then they
that.
disappear for a while.
Yes.
So your thinking last year, if I remember correctly, was that at the end of the day, that building is a moneymaker and it would be
Right.
an even more, a greater moneymaker if net of the movies and some
Yeah,
of that.
I think the monies, that we have coming in are gonna more than cover the expenses. There was some language in the lease, when I reviewed it, gave it to Mark, that I suggested we be cautious with, because it kind of, put a lot of risk and liability on us for other things, which I wasn't gonna have the money to take care of.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how that's shaken out. I know the town council has reached out to me to have a discussion on a couple of things. I would imagine that's what it's.
Mhm.
So, we are moving forward with the monies you approved last year. I should have a bid package out in the month of March for the painting of that building. And then hopefully we'll tag team on that painting contract for painting throughout town a little bit.
I have a couple of questions, if I might, Joe. One is just curious about the library. It appears that the steps are done, but the rest of the ground, which is not, the same, so we're unable to use the steps at this point.
The steps aren't done.
They're not.
No,
Go
the
there, maybe I missed
the
it.
concrete, the foundation stone. The marble steps are now been placed back on there.
Well,
So we basically ran out of weather.
right,
What you see is the foundation not yet finished.
thank you.
Yeah.
Looks like you can step on to me, but
You can.
I'm
Well,
just delaying it back.
We talked about that, if need be, and that needed to be an emergency exit, it could be, because you're right. The foundation could act like steps and we could put some temporary stuff up there, but, we put, I think we put doorbells on the doors so people can ring to get in. So handicap accessibility is still being accomplished. The building does have 2 exits already, so it seemed worthy to spend that extra money right now. Knock on wood, 5 weeks in the spring will be done.
Now, I also have a question about the park.
Well,
Okay, so we had 26 parks, only 17 needed mowing, et cetera.
Yeah.
Do we spend a lot on them, and that may make it very popular, but in any way we can maybe eliminate some of these parks that aren't being used and save some money altogether? I've never seen anyone in South Street, doesn't mean that they're aren't there, I'm not there all the time, but I've never seen that used.
I don't think that's my call, but,
Oh, okay.
if you guys want, if the Parks Department, if you guys wanna make a decision to terminate some of that.
Do you mow those, the South Street is used, but do you, some of the really isolated parks, you just mow those less, right?
Yeah, there's some of them that we don't even touch that are considered parks. But you know, like Stanley Park, Castronova Park, you don't see a lot of people there, but that would be an eyesore if we didn't mow it. Across the street from there, that, Harris Park.
Yeah.
Harris Park, you know, again, little things, I don't know, or, you know, so those are the ones we're after and mow and maintain. Are the ones that really get used. You know, there's parks like, you know, the wildlife conservation up at McAllister Park, you don't touch that. I think someone might.
It's just not a way to save money.
Well, I mean, you always save money by mowing less, but then the phone rings.
Right, oh, no, I didn't want to, I just thought maybe not utilizing the parts that we have and then maybe.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of one that would mow that I think we could let go and wait.
One of the things that we're proposed to do this year is offset some of the costs of maintaining cemeteries with the one-time use of cemetery funds. Not that we're gonna stop doing it, it's just that we have another source of funds for a year to help us out, and offset some costs.
So the cemetery, as we collect fees for lot sales, we need a couple questions answered by somebody. The cemetery is determined the fact that we put money into
Perpetual
care. We put money into there, and we got $270-some thousand in there, and we earn about $1,400 interest. Like, it's not worth. And we're trying to determine where we put money in. We'd be better off putting all their money into lot sales that we have access to. Perpetual care money cannot be touched except for the interest. So, and only by town meeting vote. So what Chris asked this year, if we could get a one-time contribution out of lot sales to help offset the cost of mowing the cemeteries. So the cemetery commissioners have voted on that, and I think that'd be just like Chris described. But the conservation voted contribution right there.
Would there be some more permanent agreement that could be made with the cemetery commission to have the maintenance and care of the cemetery paid for by the cemetery?
Well, I think that's one of the questions that we're investigating with council is if we can put funds into lot sales that's more available to us, we might have a little bit more to use each year.
But it wouldn't be a wash. In other words, you couldn't pay for the whole mowing out of it.
It would offset some.
Well, we're not talking about all the mowing that the crew does. The cemetery is not everything that they
The
mow.
cemetery is a huge amount for the.
I'm not saying it's not,
It would
But-
it could offset some.
but perpetual care is in a sense.
Well, people don't buy
Perpetual
perpetual
care.
care anymore because there's no sense to having perpetual care because we take care of it anyways. So like, if you look at a gravestone, it'll say perpetual care on it, maybe from 1950. No difference from the one next to it that doesn't say perpetual care on it. It's
I
an
understand.
outdated, it's an outdated
I-
thing, so no
I
one pays
understand.
perpetual care anymore.
I understand, but the cost of lots and the cost of maintenance and care of the cemetery can be built into the costs of
So
sold lots.
what I made offer is the Buildings and Grounds Group has equipment to take care of all the buildings and grounds, mowing equipment, dump trucks, things like that. About every third truck we purchase is done through lot sales.
Which
Okay,
makes a lot of sense.
right, so we try to divvy it up that way. It might not be used all the time for the cemeteries, but a third of it and a third of the mowers are purchased.
But they are then from hearing this, I'm hearing that they are contributing on a regular basis.
They are,
Okay,
Right.
see, this is the first time I've ever heard that they were contributing.
yeah.
Well, lot
To the
sales are
maintenance.
not perpetual care, but lot sales are, yes.
Right,
One thing you gotta keep in mind, our cemetery available grave inventory is in decent shape. But in 20 years or so, you're gonna have to do something to use atomic. Okay, and there are some empty fields right next to the cemetery. And it'd be nice to have money in lot sales when that becomes available to make an acquisition. Without maybe borrowing.
Do we have, am I remembering correctly that we have a separate fund that's dedicated solely to the purchase of additional cemetery property?
That's lot sales. So when someone buys a grave, in past times.
Yeah.
A grave was $600,
Right.
$400 put into. Lot sales,
Right.
$400 for that potential pay. Right now, our graves are. Maybe like 1,200 even. 1,200. $1 goes into perpetual care.
Right.
$11.99 goes into lot sales. Until we get the blessing from town council that we don't need to. Apply money to perpetual care. So it makes it more available for you.
Right.
And one reason not to complete that perpetual care with this one-time infusion
Yeah.
of funds is because there needs to be something left for eventual
Sure.
acquisition.
Sure, no,
Is one of the questions that is in line for town councils. If we don't need to contribute to perpetual care, can it be eliminated?
Cemetery Commission would like to just close that account out, but as the law states, we can only use the interest. It's like, there's no way to close it out, so we're trying to get it.
well, weren't we hiring a consultant to help us figure that out as of last year?
No,
The consultants and rules and regulations. And I have.
Have we tried goats? Goats. To fence in and just take care of the lawns.
I do a picture of Black Angus cows that was done.
There you go.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to return to the courthouse. I know we moved on, but again, we set aside all this money last year and yet this budget line is increasing and I'm just wondering, is it happening?
This basic money is what you approved last year was capital improvements.
Right.
$1
This is maintenance.
This is just the basic maintenance of that building. It's the seasonal changing of filters and services,
I see.
HVAC
And-
equipment. things like that.
And so costs are going up, you know? Okay, and then my other question is, what about the unused buildings or the abandoned buildings in town? Do you handle those?
The abandoned building.
Yeah, I'm trying to think the one on Main Street here.
Reed
Yeah,
cleaners.
Reed
Oh.
Cleaner.
Chris could give you a brief update on that, that's not.
That's not. yeah.
That's not something we spend, buildings and grounds money on.
Okay.
This is grants.
Because you
right,
don't have
for
to
that.
do anything for these buildings.
Right, we just insure them for just general liability, we lock them, make them secure as best we can, but it's not like we.
It's not much of an expense.
So if we turn around and take something for tax reasons, the buildings and grounds guys will go over there, secure it, lock it up, things like that, just to protect ours. If not, our insurance company is gonna not insure it for us. Right.
Right, got it. Okay.
It's just probably the last thing, is a training item. I know there's been discussion in past meetings. Pretty much all the DPW training items are just training. It's not training and travel. I mean, if we're driving somewhere, we're taking a town truck and we're going up to another town to pick up points. So most of it's just, you may do a little bit of all there.
I have a question about the trash removal, Joe.
Yeah.
Why it's going up so high? How does that work? What are we picking up? What's I don't know. how that works.
So in town, the majority of the buildings that we clean and the trash gets removed, we bring it to the transfer station. There's a few locations like, the senior center, the Hoosie Dome, one more, that we actually have dumpsters there that people come and empty. That's what that is. And that, we go out to bid for that, as part of the bid package for trash removal. It's a yearly contract because we don't engage, too many years with authorization from, the town meeting. So what we typically do to save on cost is we've been putting a bid out for the current year with an option to extend it for 2 more. And then depending on the pricing, we'll either go back out to bid or we'll sign them up for a second year and save all the procurement costs.
So that 8,000 will all be used.
Pretty much.
Yeah, so why is it going up? It's just,
Right.
It's just a
the
cost.
charge is.
Yeah, it's just a cost, yeah. And whose time we got a 2-yard, don't know what we have at here, please. But
So
yeah, I think that
we
might be a
changed it
3-yard.
recently when we left Barbados, right?
Yeah, we're-
Or
So-
did we
No,
switch to
Barbados
that?
is doing it now.
Right.
Yeah, we left Casella.
Yeah,
Back to the courthouse, it's pretty extensive property around the courthouse.
Yes.
So are we maintaining those lawns, part of all the other lawns that we?
We did.
Yeah.
That's a park.
That's a park.
Yes. The
Right.
only thing that's really the courthouse is the courthouse property in the parking lot. That's what we leased it.
That is a park, but it's a pretty basic park. It's just a lawn, right?
So we,
they play baseball there all the
We have
time.
a
I live
number-
in that neighborhood.
we had a number of neighbor discussions.
Yeah.
And that time, which was 2 or 3 years ago,
Yeah.
neighbors wanted it just to be an open field.
Yeah.
We may change that eventually in the parks, we talked about it,
Okay,
but at this point, that was the request of the neighbors. Neighbors have changed now, so it may be
Okay.
different.
okay, all right,
Yeah, you're right, they do play ball there.
okay, I can
And we
respect
mark the
that.
corners so that people don't encroach on our property like they were.
Say that again, sorry.
We mark the corners.
Yeah.
We know what the property things are, so.
Thanks.
Okay, let's move on to highway. I want you to want to look. Highway, page 19.
All right, so, just a quick outline on highway, our roadway infrastructure is actually the town's most valuable asset. Our roadways and roadway network support everything. Police, fire, residents, businesses. And as our roadways deteriorate, they're much harder and costly to maintain. And as you probably see that when you drive down something like 41 that's all rutted and it's sometimes appears it's not plow even though you're right behind the plow. That group has 6 boots on the ground employees. This budget covers the operating and maintenance of 73 miles of road, which is 146 lane miles. 11 bridges, 2 are closed, 1 is temporary. On a scale of 0 to 9, our bridges are between a 5 and a 6. The lion's share of bridge maintenance is very specialized and not currently within the skill set of the highway team. So a lot of that work has to be done. This group, we also own and maintain 5 traffic signals and 5 pedestrian crossing signals. We have over 12 signs. Our roadway surface rating of a possible 106.6. It's down 5 points in the last 3 years.
What does that mean?
So the roadways, like when you pave a road, it's actually got a roadway surface rating of 1. And based on time and use, and algorithms in the computer. It's low. Neighborhood roads, if they're done right, can last you 40 years. Main Street will last you 20, just because of the uses. So they have algorithms built in, and every 3 to 5 years, for short money, we have a company come in and reevaluate. And then
Matt. GIS, Geographic Information System database that highway uses with our engineers, and each road and segment is rated, the last time it was repaired, what's next to be done, the length of that, the width of that, square yardage, and tonnage of material that might be required. Pretty expensive.
Can I ask, can you give an update on the bridges? Because I tell you, no matter where I go in town, everybody is talking about the bridges. And- Pardon?
We can talk about capital another night too, if you want.
Well, it's just, for instance, going over the Pink Bridge, the expansion joints, you could see I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying,
So.
there's,
Just
we've
so
got
you know-
problems.
We do, our bridges, and some will disagree with me, we have our bridge problems, as we all know. But the bridges that we currently have that don't have problems, we're right in the middle of the road as far as, you know, the quality and things like that. You'll see in the Capitol, it was there last year. If we had spent $800,000 on Williams River or Division Street over Williams River, that would give us another good 45 years of use out of that bridge. We let it go for many more years, it's gonna cost you $6 million. So, you know, we have evaluated the bridges, we use the state information that they inspect. We have a hierarchy of what bridges need to be replaced and what needs to be done. There's certain pieces that we can do as the highway department, which is in the budget we're talking about. You know, the treading of the brushes around it, washing down the bridge beams and abutments in the spring. This town has never done that. We're gonna do it this year. We're actually looking and working on altering, like we did have a truck fire. We have a brine system that will use organics on the bridge, so we're not putting salt on the bridges, which is one of the biggest deterrent factors. So it's hard to measure these benefits, which most of us won't be around to measure them, but they're certainly gonna help. So, I don't know how much more you want to.
No, I was just wondering if maybe you could put plates over it, because I keep
That's
thinking,
not our bridge.
that's not your bridge.
That's not our
Okay,
bridge. That's
all
the
right.
state. We own this side of it.
Okay.
So, we don't know how many culverts or miles of drainage pipe we have. I recently applied for a grant to do an asset management on that. $160,000 grant to map out our drainage and culverts. And this group that we're talking about here also, maintains and operates our transfer station. So, flipping into the highway budget, again, a lot of the items up top are fixed by collective bargaining.
So can I ask you a question about that? Do you mind?
Absolutely.
So, generally, these increases are percentage more than other departments. I'm sorry, the increases here are about 4.5%.
Correct.
In other departments, they've been 3%. Is this a different
So-
negotiated increase?
The difference you're looking at, and very good.
Yeah,
The difference you're looking at is we have a hierarchy within the highway department and the buildings and grounds department. That, you know, you have a laborer that doesn't have a license, you know, other than the driver's license. You have an equipment operator that has an equipment license, you have a CDL driver. So, the town has set, you know, in the past, as things change, like we have these roadside mowers with the arms on them that you see out there mowing, that requires a special hydraulic endorsement. So the town,
what?
hydraulic endorsement on their hydraulic license.
Oh,
So the town says, hey, look, if you go get that, we'll give you another 25 cents an hour. So what you're seeing, that little difference you're seeing built in there is for that. Because what we find is, in times of snowstorms and times of bad weather, or trees or things like that, we don't have the right guys available because the 3 guys with CDL license are out on vacation, or the 2 guys with the hydraulic license. So we're working with the program with the help of Kara from the police department, that we can, for short money, $75 or so worth of online training, physical, and paying for a test. We can train our own guys to take the CDL test. So the money is, that added money you're seeing is the 25 cents an hour added to those positions that take advantage of this.
Well, so that's consistent with other departments where your salary goes up if your education or training goes up.
Yep.
Okay, that's my question.
Joe, you just, was it just being off the cuff about saying you got, you know, you could in theory have 3 people on vacation? Are you approving those vacations?
Not me personally, but yeah, the superintendent does, but there are like on a CDL or a hydraulic license, you know, we, if the 3 guys on highway are out, we do have some in wastewater or buildings and grounds with the license. We don't let everybody go out.
I was gonna say, that's, sounds a little
But the more people you have licensed, the less of an issue it is.
correct.
And the better benefit it is for the town.
Right.
You know, because, you know, during COVID, we had problems. We had truck drivers that had to come in and plow with COVID. Because, we needed the licensed person. The bigger trucks. So the long range plan, and probably after my time, but to try to work towards it, is if we can take that tiered thing and close it up a little bit and get more licenses in town, the town will benefit in the long run.
Mhm.
And what it does too is it helps some of, first of all, trying to find new employees with certain licenses with them. So if we can offer some in-house training where that same CDL license, if we were to turn around or someone wanted to go get it, is $6,000 in 2 weeks of their time they don't get it. By doing it in-house is something the state has set up for municipalities to do. So, you know, we found through working with our insurance company, we found this program and we're putting it together now.
Great.
So over time, hopefully we'll close that gap up for very short money for the town. It takes some of our less licensed people, which tend to be our younger people. It offers some training and growth opportunities within the town. So hopefully it'll contribute to longevity and advancement within the community.
Can I ask a different question? On,
I know.
on roads in general in the town, can you explain to me how the repaving of streets is done? I know that there's work you have to do in advance of the repaving, right?
Like you see on the Gilmore Ave.
Right. And, do you contract those out to people, like the actual paving services?
Yes.
So you contract those out to pavers. I saw in your notes elsewhere in here that you're saying your plan, we have to pave at least 4 miles of road every year.
Yeah.
Is there a certain amount of road paving that's a part of your regular budget, or is all of it in capital?
No, it's in capital.
All of it's in
The
capital.
only thing that's in the operating budget that we're looking for tonight is patching. If there's a bunch of patching or potholes, those materials and stuff come up here. The town doesn't own pavers and rollers and stuff like that.
Right. But the cost of hiring out the companies to do the paving
Yep.
is considered a capital expense and paid for through that system.
So, you've seen in the past budgets, crack sealing and be one time there's cracks on the, you don't see cracks here. And this is sticking a bee's nest here, but, when you turn around and crack seal a road, it theoretically adds 3 years of longevity. Okay, so why are we borrowing a 20-year bond to pay for 3 more years? So in the future, and I think this year, there's some different treatments we're gonna do to preserve our roads. We have 39% of our roads are deteriorated beyond maintenance. Okay, the balance are, we can still maintain them. So you're gonna see a few things this year, if the money gets approved. You're gonna see more crack sealing. You're gonna see what's called a micro seal that we will put on Main Street here to preserve Main Street. Because if we micro sealed every 6 years on Main Street over the course of 40 years, it'll cost $2 million. If we resurface Main Street every 14 or 15 years, you're gonna spend $6 million. So there's different treatments. There's a fog seal, which is very similar to a driveway seal. We're in the budget, we have intentions to put that on Christian Hill Road and Bishop Street. We have 2 very good roads. Let's keep them that way. So we're kicking the can down the road in short money to get more longevity out of these roads.
You're trying to figure out how much to ask for in capital for paving, but you also have to ask in capital for the other treatments that you're talking about, but they're much less costly.
They are.
But they can only be applied to certain streets.
They can, correct. like Main Street is beyond fog seal. If you look at Main Street real close, you'll see the stones and the aggregate versus the fines that tie it all together. So we have to replenish that. Where if it was fog sealed 5 years ago, 3 years ago, we wouldn't be spending the money we're looking to spend. So we have to keep up on the times and take advantage of it. An effort to, make our roads and bridges and buildings last. So I think future discussion should be, it's really too late for this year's, but in the maintenance budget, the operating budget that we're talking about, let's put in this budget those treatments that extend less than the bond life.
That seems reasonable.
Okay, so again, it's a little bit too late this year, but that's kind of where you'll be hearing myself talking to Chris about in the future. So on that same note, if you look here down at 53085 police details,
Can I ask about that?
yeah, so when we're in town doing a road project, a capital road project, and we need police details to close the road or direct traffic or something like that. In the past, those monies were capitalized. To me, in my mind, I can't capitalize those monies, those are expenses, okay? We can put it wherever you want, but the thing is, you're gonna pay debt service on police details for 20 years. So that's what we did this year is we put, every time a police detail came in, whether it was for highway or wastewater, it's put in the operating budget. And at the end of the year, we can shift money around to cover it, great. If not, we're gonna transfer it to capital. So, and
Makes
you're
sense.
borrowing money. So it's just smart money sense.
It makes sense because it's not really a capital project.
Right, so typically a contractor who's hired to pay the road for $500,000 will have a line in there, these details, and we capitalize the whole thing. So this is a different way of thinking.
And so what we do is, and then, take a little bit of money out of the market's pocket, but what we do is they bill us and they don't get their 10% administrative fee either. And we keep it out of.
Yeah. I have a question about contracted services. I remember some citizens said to me, why is this darn sidewalks cracking so soon? I remember being told that we have to use the lowest bidder, state mandated. Is that the case with all our contracted services? When we do the roads and stuff, we have to use the cheapest, maybe.
The procurement laws, we have to use the lowest quality. And most are.
It doesn't help a lot.
It doesn't. And across the board, you're just referencing sidewalks and roads.
Right.
Okay, but when you go out to bid for, an HVAC in a building. And you have a spec that gives them leniency to use whatever piece of equipment they want, as long as it puts out so many BTUs and it's oil fired and things like that, we end up with junk. I shouldn't say junk, we end up with, a multitude of different things that we can never hold in on and maintain.
Was this somewhat costing us more money in the long run? Or
It
we
does.
are forced to use this and now we're spending more money to take care of it when
So
we can do something with the states.
I have two things in the works, how correct that the select board will eventually see. We have generators at all our pump stations, at police stations and fire stations, and you know what, the same thing, they're all different. You can come up with a proprietary town spec. And you have to prove that it's cost beneficial. And then you bring it in front of the governing authority, which would be our select board, and they vote on it. So I have that in the works for building management systems for our buildings. So someone doesn't come in and say, yeah, I'm gonna use Johnson Controls, which is a proprietary spec that we have to buy a license for every year. No, I want to use a non-proprietary spec that everyone has access to, and this is why. So those things, I know we're getting into the weeds here, but this is a lot of the detail and thought process that's going into better plan and help us financially in the future.
But this is the way in procurement that you ensure that you're getting the lowest bid on something that works. And not just the lower bid, which makes it so squidgy that you can get all kinds of things put in.
And
That's good. in
And then
procurement.
we were familiar with, then we can price.
Exactly, right, it saves money everywhere.
So of our
You get
11,
what you pay for it.
of our 11 buildings, we have one that's almost complete, the Mason Library. And we have a plan to go out to bid for the police station to line it up with that. And ultimately, it'll save us service call costs, because if it's, we put the building management system in that can be remotely accessed, we can call our HVAC technician and say, we got a problem. He can jump online and diagnose it from his office and come with the right parts, versus coming here, find out what's going on, driving back to Springfield and bringing the parts up. So it takes a while to see the fruits of their fruits, but they will.
Jump back a few things. The ceiling project that happened on 183
Yes,
a few months ago, was that our project? Was that?
it was.
And what method was that?
That was crack sealing.
That was.
So we've submitted, and through the budget, the capital budget and engineering, we are on the list of the TIPS project, transportation improvement, that the state runs. We're responsible for the design, which will approximately be $1.2 million from the Park Street Bridge to the Brookside School, where 7A is. When we do the design, the state will come in and construct the road. $28 million for the plan. For one. But it's slated to occur in 2030. Okay, it's gonna be huge improvements, it's gonna have drainage on it, it's gonna have a sidewalk on it, it's gonna have on the east side, which is the water side, it's gonna have a 10-foot path that will have 2 5-foot lanes for multi-purpose use. It's gonna be amazing. So, but we have to maintain
We have
it
to maintain it.
until 2030. So we need to make that road last 5 to 6 more years.
Okay.
So
So do the short term, even though crack sealing is not your preferred method for this project.
there's actually another step that's gonna happen. The crack sealing was done in preparation for what we call a cape seal. Okay, this cape seal will be put on it, and you all seen the chip seal streets with the asphalt and aggregate. It's similar to that, but it's smaller chips. And that on that road will give us 6 or so years of longevity and have a good road. So it's just a step to preserve that road, because if we just crack seal it and keep filling the potholes, you don't want to imagine what that road's gonna look like in 6 years. So, it's a calculated plan.
What else?
Okay.
Anyone else?
Just one, coming back to the transfer station, the costs are in here, right?
So I have a request. The transfer station cost, for some reason, for good reason in the past, is built into the highway budget. I would like us all to get on board with taking the transfer station out of there and making it its own budget. Okay, so the expenses are in the highway budget, the revenues go into free cash. When I came here, the year I came here, I did a balancing act on expenses versus revenue of the transportation. And the taxpayers subsidized $40,000 in the transfer station. The year before that, they subsidized 47,000. In 2024, we subsidized 21, taxpayers subsidized 21. That was contributed to, better operating of the transfer station, tighter controls of the people coming in and out, tightening up how we sell permits downstairs. And then in 2025, we raised the rates, and I'm projecting the loss to be somewhere between 5 and 10,000. So we're marginally close to breaking even and offering one hell of a service to the community.
Okay, well, that's great. I think now we're at the point where, as I understand it, everyone's paying to use the transfer station. There's no free recycling anymore. You need a recycling sticker.
Right.
So everyone is paying for it. So therefore, I think there's an even stronger argument that it should be the price of the stickers should be based upon getting us to sort of break even. Because if there are many people in town who elect to pay for their own waste pickup and I think my view is they shouldn't be, sort of subsidizing the transfer station for something that they don't use at all. So I would certainly support that.
So I think there's still opportunity to bring operating costs down. Our transfer station's open, what is it, Saturday, Sunday, Monday?
Fridays,
Saturday.
Saturdays. And
So, the old rule of thumb, was, hey, make sure the hauler comes and gets the garbage out of here on Thursday, because we're open the next 3 days. What if it's only half full? We're paying transportation costs on half the tonnage. So we've instilled a little bit of a practice to monitor that. And over the last year, we've actually changed our compactors to higher capacity compactors because we're not hauling, what the tonnages we're hauling aren't over the limit as far as hauling. So let's pack it tighter and put more in there. So we up the tonnage of our compactors and then we're actually supervising the operation and when they get called. So I think we're still gonna see some improvements from that. So next year, that 5 to 10 may be closer to 5 or less.
I would say one thing though, if I may, I still feel that the supervision is a bit lax there. And that,
Can't disagree.
yeah, okay, and was wondering if we have any plans to do anything about it. I mean, yeah, definitely that continues, yeah.
We have two things. The operation of the part of the operation that you're referring to, has improved greatly. It's sometimes trying to change the way things were always done, which is difficult. We have a traffic flow in the non-winter months. There's traffic flow cones and there's stop signs where you stop and wait for the attendant and he checks everything. That, will keep tightening up. I did have, I needed to have Wi-Fi installed up there because of a previous project that the town approved was to put a kiosk up there.
I was just gonna ask about
Yeah,
that. We've
yeah.
been talking about that.
The kiosk is built.
Okay.
I have a meeting set up next week with the programmer to discuss how we're programming it. And then we'll work out how they pay with credit card up there, so it comes to the town coffers. But giving us Wi-Fi up there, that gives us the ability to put cameras up there.
Good.
Well, actually, for what it's worth, my personal experience has been that
There's an
the
improvement.
policing there is very tight these days.
It
I'll
definitely
leave it at that.
improved, but I would still say, maybe you have an experience.
I'm hearing more things like Phil said.
Yes.
And I heard.
Yeah, okay. Maybe it was just what you were bringing there, something, but whatever. I
Someone
think we
noticed.
still need a little bit more work there, yeah.
Eric, and then
Yeah, I gotta just, as you were talking about, shifting budgets, is that anything required for us to make that happen? I guess, as far
I think
as
it-
having that set on its own.
I'm not sure what hurdle it poses for Ally, to create another line item in the budget.
It's, I think we would look, again, like we were talking about earlier with buildings and grounds, it would help us to track things a little bit more accurately, but still give us some fungibility within the budget. So it's,
But I mean, I guess there's no vote to finance board or the select board have to do to make that happen.
No.
I guess I throw it out there, so, there's a lot of good minds here, and so, if I throw the idea out, you guys might have a better one, so.
the select board used to have more control over the transfer station hours, et cetera. And we haven't done that in years. I think if this is a best practice for accounting and Ally agrees with it, Chris agrees with it, you just go with it.
Just a couple quick questions. Street lights down, is that
Mhm.
because of LED lighting?
It
or-
is.
Okay. that's
So-
what I thought.
That project, for some reason, it hit a hiccup within National Grid. And we weren't seeing them being replaced, and we're still seeing some of the old ones out there. They're back on track. I expect to hear from them in the weeks to come that they're done.
Okay.
at which point, you know, that's why you see the reduction in the request, because it's coming into play. And, back when this started, there was a calculated, refund of 50 grand. That will come off our electric bill too.
Oh.
So, you know, they haven't told me the details of where it goes. At one point, someone told us it would be a check written to the town, in turn which it would go to free cash.
Yeah.
The latest thing was it would come out the electric bill, like credit. Yeah, and I think if it's a credit on the bill, and once we know that, we might be able to cut that a little more.
Sorry.
I just throw my 2 cents in. I always feel personally that the streetlights are too dim, especially at your crosswalk.
You're probably in the things that I've heard. you're
Minority.
probably
Minority,
I
definitely.
get a lot of complaints about they're too
Yeah,
bright.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a question, Joe, for the street and bridge maintenance repairs. There's quite a bit of a dip, and do you feel you will still continue the work as it needs to be done? Okay, good. Good to know that. Okay.
Yeah, Claudia Shapiro, 70-1 Plain Road. Joe, do you design town-owned roads designated for work?
Do I do the design, the
Yes.
engineer? Well, it depends what it is. If it's a drainage improvement project, no, we'll subcontract that out.
So what exactly design do you do?
You know, if we were just gonna do, like Seacon Crossroad, I have money requested to redo that road. We have sampled and cored that road and determined what the proper treatment is. And it's not the traditional, grind it up and put 2 layers of blacktop down. There's, a treatment where it's a paver place stabilized modification, which basically it grinds down 2 inches, stabilizes the material, because that's something I worked with.
So you were actually doing the design for the rehabilitation of the Seacon
Yeah.
Crossroads as you?
Right, I think you can call it a design, but there's different, applications that are out there, it's just basically picking right up.
So there's nobody else involved in the design for the Seacon Crossroad?
So,
Any other questions? Highway. No, you're still getting to 25, Parks and Recreation.
all right, I just think you through this, the board clerk basically does all the processing of the paperwork, for park usages, insurance requests, and, you know, maintaining the insurance files to protect our interest. It probably equates to 7 to 12 hours a week that they're doing there. So I think we get, where we are now, we're getting a pretty good bargain. We don't want to lose the person either, so that's what that is. Parks improvements, that's some money that's used for if there's a swing that needs to be replaced or chains that are broken or things like the safety mulch that's under the playground equipment needs to be upgraded every year and topped off. That's done through there. The parks cameras and operations, we presently have Lake Mansfield just about set up with power, and a Wi-Fi and the Housatonic playground. And the piece that we're missing is the operating cost to put the cameras up and have them available for the police department. I guess if I see that's cut, we experience more damage than it's gonna cost to operate that. Between graffiti and damage and things thrown in the lake. I think if we have cameras and catch somebody, once or twice the word gets out, they leave it alone.
I would say this, I'm on the Parks Department, and speaking for the Parks Department. I would think we should have like a 3 or 4 year plan to put more cameras up. Olympia Meadows is some major problems down there. It's a
Right.
And Joe's absolutely right, the amount of money we'll save,
Mm.
even if our insurance covers some of it. Just the amount of time and effort that goes into this, we should be putting that back in and have a plan to continue it, not the whole town, but in key areas.
right, yeah.
And we're spending a lot of money on parks.
Yeah.
Which is good, and they're getting used,
Mm.
but they're also getting vandalized.
So this $7,500 line would do what exactly?
So we haven't really nailed down what camera approach we were gonna do. But what this covers is if we were to engage Spectrum, they would provide the cameras, this would maintain the cameras and provide us with a cloud-based system that we can access online or back 30 days.
This is a subscription really,
Right.
yeah,
it's
yeah,
kind of a
yeah,
Wi-Fi
yeah,
with a subscription.
yeah.
Would you really be engaging Spectrum to pick out the equipment?
Yeah, they actually have a program where there's some pretty top-end equipment. And the thing is, we don't own it, so we
Right,
don't have the expertise
yeah,
to maintain their
yeah.
clients.
Oh, so you'd be leasing it?
It's just, it's like a service fee, yeah.
So this would, so the 75, that would be like a yearly thing is what we're
That'd be the
thinking.
yearly money for those two
for
like.
those
Yeah.
locations.
Yeah,
So, again, you know, it's up to you, but I mean, I think all in all, at the end of the day, we're gonna spend the money.
yeah,
Then we don't have to send the buildings and grounds centers guys, and they can stay and do some of their other tasks.
right.
Can I just then go up to the, I'm having trouble understanding the budget line above, so. Yeah, if the parks improvements. We had budgeted nothing for fiscal year 25, and yet we spent 5,000. Level service budget is 20,000. The request is 4,000, and now it's 10, I just don't understand that line at all.
So I think there's some invoices that haven't fit there or been allocated somewhere else, but the parks improvement, and now this isn't broke here with all the new stuff, but we purchased and installed more than $5,000 worth of swings and picnic benches and things like that.
Yeah,
You know, we're doing a lot of that ourselves too. You know, we're buying materials and building ourselves in
Yeah.
the rainy days. We're getting donations from people. You know, like Black and Adventure Fund, and we use that money to buy the next round of materials. So we've done some creative things to keep monies down. If I don't get the money coming in, I don't have the materials. To buy. So I think what you're seeing there is the $5,000. It's not representative totally of what we spent so far. So it was miscoded or it hasn't, it's not reflected that.
Could I ask if the CPA request of 107,000 would include this, and we could remove this for this year at least?
CPA can't do maintenance, I learned it this year, this is maintenance.
Yeah.
Okay,
I learned something that you're such an expert.
But
Well,
well,
it's
every
called-
year, a little by little.
but if it's called improvement, I don't
But,
think
you
there
know,
would be a maintenance,
But the
no?
thing is, by replacing some of that equipment, you know, there won't be as much to be maintained next year because it'll be new too. So, I mean, you know, I was looking for 20 because of the things we had in mind, you know, and I can live with the 10 and make it work. And if things don't go as wrong as normal, I can go a little somewhere else. But
I'm just trying to think of another place where we could find the 7,500.
Yeah, no,
Well,
that's a
that,
good
I
point.
think we will need to
But I
find
think it's
somewhere,
also an
yeah,
interesting point
yeah,
that what you're seeing here is a snapshot. Joe's already gone and got 107,000 from the CPA, which otherwise would have gone into this budget eventually. So there's other funding going into the park.
Right.
This,
Yeah.
So maybe while you're thinking, I'll just share with you, the youth programming, the 92,000 is made up of two elements. It's made up of lifeguarding at Lake Mansfield, and it's made up for $55,000. And Railroad Street Youth Project providing youth services down at Memorial Field for 37,000. Those are the two elements that I put in there.
And what do you mean by youth services at
So
Memorial Field?
what they do is and we give them a schedule, and it's basically, from school closure to school opening, the summer months. They have two people down there that put on activities, maintain order in the park, and things of that nature. And those services extend outside the school closure time, and they work after hours and weekends. So it's basically 7 days a week. in the summer and then after school hours.
I have a question about that because I mean, I know that we had lifeguards at Mansfield last year, right? And so I don't really understand that big dip in 2024. I know that that initially we were gonna engage some low-cost provider, and then it didn't work out. We ended up taking back the lifeguards as every year.
So the actuals.
Yeah.
The actuals are down because last year through procurement, we got a lifeguard company that was the lowest qualified.
Right.
bidder,
Yeah,
out of Georgia, and it didn't work out. So 50% plus of the time, Lake Mansfield did not have lifeguards last year.
not that I recall, but maybe,
So, because what happened is, we worked with Railroad Street, or,
Berkshire South, yeah, exactly,
and
yeah.
we were able to get.
Get people from there, yeah, yeah. But what you are saying, it was not covering so many hours as what we normally have. I see,
So,
okay.
You know, Berkshire South has the same thing every business does, is finding employees. So to man Lake Mansfield, 6 to 8 hours a day, 7 days a week, they need a staff of about 7 people.
Mhm.
So what this reflects is kind of a best fit situation for us and for them, that we man, Lake Mansfield Wednesday through Sunday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So it's 8 hours a day.
Right, yeah,
Okay, so basically they have to hire 3 lifeguards for 40 hours a week.
Mhm.
Now it gives us a better service and it's more doable for them. And it keeps our costs down.
right, right,
And I'll caveat that by saying around 4th of July, there'll be 3 lifeguards. If there's a holiday on a Monday, we're not gonna.
Right.
So we actually put a spreadsheet together with a schedule, looking
Mhm.
at how the holidays fall. And populate it with what we think are rates,
right,
because we still have to go through procurement. and do
right,
that.
right. But you're gonna go back to Berkshire South for the lifeguards?
You have to go through procurement.
So you will still have to go through this bidding,
So the lessons learned last year,
yeah,
there'll be clauses put in there.
and so that you will have, okay, all right, okay,
So let's go there, and then Garfield.
Yeah.
And then Ann, and then we'll go Amanda.
Hi, my name is Eric Boone. I'm on the board of the Railroad Street Youth Project. I live on 264 Main Street. I just wanted to speak a little bit about the youth services that the Railroad Street provides around the skateboard park and really all year round for the community. Joe's, I don't have much more to say than what Joe said. I mean, it's very active programming. There are events held, there's a full staff there. It's often a very good way to gain access to young people who are, have other issues. And it's an environment in which one can work with young people at a time in which there are no other services. The schools are there. It's it's a penny of prevention. And at this point, it's the only funding the Railroad Street Youth Project would receive from the town, depending on what happens with the cannabis money. So, appreciate all the work everyone puts in, and really difficult decision making. I can answer any, do my best to answer any other questions about that.
Just to confirm, we're gonna do this as my Garfield, and then Ann, and then Amanda, hang out, we'll have 2 questions when they want to go.
Right. I just had a couple of questions for Joe. What is lake management and what is waste management? And why can't we do the waste if it's what I think it is? Combined with the trash pickup.
Lake management is basically the weed mat that is in the swim area. So that gets maintained in the beginning of the spring, halfway through the year, gets taken out, cleaned, and put back down. Because if not, the vegetation starts decaying underneath and starts flowing. So that's basically the actual cost for that. Waste management is our porta potties.
Okay.
So you'll notice there's no actuals because it must have got charged to the wrong account.
Mhm.
So we'll get that moved over before the budget's closed.
Yeah.
No, you can have them.
Okay, Amanda? Fine. Yeah, go ahead.
He's on mute.
She got to unmute herself.
All right, hi,
Amanda,
it's Ananda Timpain, 139 Seacon Crossroad. I'm the executive director at Railroad Street Youth Project. I would echo everything Joe and Eric said. I did want to provide a little bit of clarification on the actuals. Like Lake Mansfield, we were also affected because the town held the skate park contract until the Lake Mansfield situation was resolved. So whereas we normally would start providing services on May 1st, we didn't start providing services. Well, we didn't have the contract finalized until the week after July 4th. And then we also had the same difficulty as Berkshire South, which was young people that we had lined up for positions were no longer available. And so we had fewer hours staffed than we normally would. And then the last piece I wanted to say about that is our contract extends for the whole fiscal year. So we have some funds remaining in our contract to cover the end of the school year period in June when school's out and the new fiscal year hasn't started yet. And like Eric, I'm available to answer any questions.
Okay, just to clarify and confirm, of that $92,000, the amount for Railroad Street Youth is only the 37,000.
yes,
That's my understanding. Is that
That would
what you
level, that would be level funded to FY24 for us, I believe. I'm sorry, level funded to the last year that we were fully staffed. So not last year when we had the debacle. It will mean, yes, we can, Joe and I have come to agreement that yes, we can do the services we want to do at that level of funding.
anyone else on parks?
So I just want to go back. I'm still trying to wrap my mind around the parks improvement line. So you spent 5,000 this year and probably more. Are you going to be moving some stuff around in the budget to cover that? Because there was no money voted on, as far as I can tell, at the
meeting,
fiscal year
right,
25
yeah.
budget.
Well, I think I'm not gonna have to, I might have to move it to from a different line item.
That's what I mean.
Because there's gonna be lifeguard money left over from the fiscal year.
I see, because of everything.
Because of
Okay.
only filling. So
Mhm.
when going forward, and what has caused a little bit of problems, especially, obviously we like to serve the local organizations providing the services. We are subject to procurement. So what really could happen here is like it did last year. Fiscal year is July 1st, so we could have one company up to July 1st and another company after July 1st. Okay, so I'm trying to use this as a transition year, such that, like Ananda said, we would have money left over in 25 to carry us up through June 30th. And then we would have funding in the new fiscal year from July to the end of the calendar year. And then we have a little bit of the fiscal year funding for the following spring. But the intention is to hire the subcontractor for the season. So, they would have one contract. Internally, we would have two POs. We would have a PO for the first part of the year under FY25 and the second part of the season as FY26. Make sense?
Yeah.
Because it would, you think about it, if we had a lot of people competing for this, it would put us in a predicament where they got hired for 3 weeks and like, well, the next person's anything like that.
Last, I only answer this if it's a short answer. The Georgia lifeguard firm, were they criminals?
Were they in competition?
What's that?
Were they in competition?
Not sure it's.
I don't think we can answer.
Yeah, okay, all right, like I said, I don't wanna go down the wormhole, but.
Unless you're willing to fund the lawyer and he's the hire. we're
That's
gonna not
okay.
answer those questions.
No, no, no.
Those
Asked
legal
and
fees are high
answered,
enough.
asked and
There are
answered,
forward
yes.
checks done on all.
Yes, of course, of course.
You don't need to go down the wormhole.
Yes.
Painful.
Could I just ask, since you are the expert on the budgets that you have, that you've been talking about. And I, for one, am thinking, where can we find the money to put the camera money back in? Can you help us? If you had your druthers, like if these cameras you believe are very important to maintenance and they're gonna save money, is there another line elsewhere that you would suggest that we might look at to take the money out in order to put this money back?
Are you gonna reestablish my buildings and grounds request to 200,000 versus the town manager 75? If you are, yes, I'll take care of it.
We're looking at the town manager recommended budget.
You know,
And I know it's a very hard question to ask, but you are the one who knows the best.
it's almost impossible to answer because I can't tell you what's gonna break throughout the year. That's kind of why I started off the conversation by saying the DPW budgets are a little bit different. There's so much that's based on history and what we think might happen. You know, if nothing breaks, I got plenty of money. If we're in a year like today, like this year, we're in trouble.
But if you can't give us some guidance, then we might take the money from someplace where you would rather. we didn't.
So here's what I think. I strongly believe we need cameras. Okay?
I'm sorry, you strongly believe what?
That we need the
Yeah,
cameras.
it makes sense, yeah, totally, yeah.
I'm behind you. How about the Maya grant? Can we try to apply for the Maya grant? That's the liability, liabilities down there across our insurance company. It's not guaranteed, but I'm just saying that if we're thinking
The
about.
problem with that, good idea, we should do that. Problem with if we don't commit to this money and don't get the grant, then it's another year without cameras. And that's, all, by all means, you should apply for it,
Yeah.
but I feel like Joe does, and I assume other people, that we need the cameras. It was cut out for good reason. You gotta get to a point in the budget, and you have to cut some things that, they're tough decisions, but I think.
Joe and I had spoke, there might be some other options we can look into that maybe don't rise to that $7,500 option. Because this conversation's gone back several months from some of the instances that we had. So we can look at a different option, maybe try to figure out a different way to do the same thing, maybe for a little bit cheaper.
Oh, we have a couple of weeks for you. You have more time to think. We have more time to think about it, so that's great. So let's see, yeah, so let's just hold off on that.
And we'll come back to it when we
We're coming
do
back,
the
to-
second
we haven't
pass.
voted on one thing yet because this is so complex,
Right.
which I'm kind of glad we did. It's
Yeah.
the whole silo thing, we're taking those down. Well, the last meeting of the year, you'll have, see Chris asking if we can start earlier. so.
Yes.
But, anyone else?
I guess I would just speak to the cameras quickly, and I guess one way I would look at it, and I know the last thing we want to do is add anything, but if we were to add it this year without taking anything else off the budget, which I think we're still gonna, there's still plenty of time. But just the maintenance and everything else like Joe talked about as far as fishing picnic tables out of the lake or whatever else may be happening in either of these locations, that money probably in one aspect or another falls into free cash is kind of the way I would look at it, just the way I'm computing it right now. But I know there's a lot more to discuss. Maybe we do pick off some numbers elsewhere.
I'll say ditto to that.
Yeah.
I have one other thing about cameras. Will they be something that, some cameras are something to record and they only keep them for a day? Will this be something where we can go back and look a week from today and say, this is what happened? Or go down the road, or we could have a shot with
30
stay?
days.
I think he said 30 days.
30 days.
I think there's 30 days normally built into it.
Good. Thank you.
Knowing the ingenuity of some of our local youth and,
Youths.
I'm just speaking as someone who lives near this kind of park. What's your plan for making sure that the cameras themselves are not vandalized?
Good point, yeah.
I don't know if you've seen it in the park, but there's the stainless steel cabinet there.
Yeah.
At the pole behind it. So that's all installed and paid for. We intend to conduit up that pole and the cameras will be on the top of that pole.
Okay.
So unless the kids got it quiet here, they're not getting to the cameras.
Well,
That would say
the
no.
key is to have the
Raise the
camera
pole.
angle cover the area where they would have to do the damage, to turn down, to
Yeah.
shut down the cameras, right? So they should be aware that if they start breaking something on the cameras, they'll be on film.
And there's a lot of different types of cameras. There's the pan tilt zoom cameras that actually will do a tour
Hmm.
every so many minutes or seconds or something. So we'll work with the police department, we'll figure out what's there.
I think those smart kids know that their vandalism is gonna be photographed as well.
I'd just like to also point out, the benefits of it that we've been able to utilize, from my lens, is when we do have that evidence of somebody that did vandalize or do graffiti and we can charge them, we can ask for restitution. We've been successful a
That's a
few
good
times
point.
to get some of that cost back that Joe's team has put to repair. He puts together an invoice, we submit with the paperwork for court, and we ask for restitution to get the town back those funds.
Correct.
Anyone else on part? Wastewater, page 31.
All right, so just a quick word of word about wastewater. This group has 6 boots on the ground employees. This budget, covers the operating maintenance of 30+ miles of sewer main, 631 manholes, 3 major pump stations. We have 2,053 customers. The plant averages 1 million gallons of sewage per day. During a significant rainfall, that capacity doubles for multiple days. It's estimated that 68% of the volume treated is infiltration and not just sewage. We work with consultants. The consultants we work with also work with many other towns, and they tell us that our wastewater enterprise fund is one of the healthiest around. With our $4+ million in retained earnings, help fund future projects. We evaluate the rates and the expenses yearly. We do high level view of the rates to make sure we're covering operating costs for the year. Every 5 years, we take a real deep dive into it and plan out for the future. So I think right now we have 3 years or so left of proposed rates for the last time it was reviewed, and everything checked out great again last year. One thing we do is we use some of our retained earnings. I think we're using on Pearl Street this year. We have a major plant upgrade supposed to happen here in a couple years. So that will be in the multi-million dollars, so that $4 million will come very helpful. It's time to do that. We were looking to do the plant upgrade, the engineering this fiscal year and the plant upgrade next year. We weren't successful in getting our low interest SRF loan. Approved this year. No one west of Worcester got any money. So we'll apply next year, we'll do the engineering and get ready to apply again in next, either this fall or this spring. As far as the budget goes, the upper part, you'll see there's a mechanic that's substantially less. We are currently without a mechanic down there. And we're reviewing the staffing levels down there, and we'll eventually have to replace that. So that's the reason that's. As you go down below, police details, it's the same story that I mentioned before. We do an infiltration project every year. Last year we lined Christian Hill sewer line, and what we're trying to do is keep the water out of the system. So we bring down our the amount of liquid coming into the plant in order to reduce our infiltration. So unfortunately, we have years ahead of us, but we keep doing that. The travel and training, it's really travel, go to Jamaica or anything like that. A lot of our training is done virtually, or there are some places, some of the people have specialty wastewater licenses that will be continuing. Education credit scoring, they may have to go out. Last year, we established that wastewater reserve fund that will cover us for emergencies. It appears that this, the FY25 to date, we haven't touched it, and it doesn't see the need for it, so we'll retain the retained earnings and that for FY25. So we're just looking for that cushion there in case we need that.
Comments, questions?
Yeah, what are we the stipend for?
Oh, that's part of the union contract. Those stipends are for, cell phones. So the employee uses their own personal cell phone. By contract, we give them $100 or $250 a year.
Is there a way we can do it without having them use their own time and process?
So then we'd end up giving them cell phones at our cost, so it'd be more expensive.
And postage, what is the postage? Why is it so much?
We mail the sewer bills 2 times a year. Basically, we got almost 5,000 envelopes that we're mailing out.
Okay, thank you.
Joe, what is your outstanding debt?
I guess
And what-
that's what it's all-
Yeah,
Is that the line from maturing debt?
no, that's a maturing debt, that's not outstanding.
That's not outstanding.
That's what's coming to be paid, yeah.
I guess I have, on those items, there are some of those lower items, the maturing debt and the interest on debt.
Yeah, I see that.
It looks like that the maturing debt, if the home managers requested $702.
Right, that's what's coming off your books, but
It just seems like it's very high, but maybe. there's
what's,
something
what,
we
I
don't know.
wonder what is outstanding
And
there.
the one below that, the interest on that, it looks like we went out of enough.
That interest, yeah, so I'm just curious, what do we have and what kind of a,
I have. Oh, hold on. You have it?
Yeah, it's in tab 4.
The last-
Aggravated.
oh, it's right here, I see that. Okay. So it's about 15 million here. And.
Yeah.
Let me see that, okay, great, thanks.
Anyone else on which one? Just,
Go ahead, then I'll get-
and mostly, this is probably for Allison, we had that big allocation to the general fund light item for about $352,000. As I understand it, that's sort of a catch-all for a lot of the, for example, the benefits, health insurance.
Yes,
And
the
retirement
allocation,
for the
the
wastewater staff,
yeah.
so,
It's for the indirect costs.
right, so you're running that through town and they're just basically reimbursing us, reimbursing the general fund for that.
Yes,
So
like a certain percentage
Right.
of certain
Yeah.
positions
Right.
and the health insurance benefits that position.
Right,
might have Based on the new
Right,
rates.
yeah. So there's a lot of entries to get that to work. Is that your responsibility or someone who's accountable for that line?
I did that.
Okay, all right, so. But there's a lot, and that's one line item, but there's obviously a lot going on there.
If you're
So-
interested to see the breakdown, I'll be happy to.
Okay,
We're not ever alone.
so the question is, so I'm really asking, rhetorical question, do you feel that, so that, is that under control, and do you feel that that's, you have enough information to sort of run all that through correctly to make the accounts balance out?
So,
Yeah, we
we kind of looked I looked over the percentages between.
we review the basic,
Yeah.
like the staff, it could be Joe's time, my time, Ally's, whatever staff, what percentage of their time they may be dealing with the wastewater system and trying to estimate that.
Yeah, like the town clerk's time might be significantly less than mine,
All right,
or the treasurer's,
Okay.
tax collector treasurer.
Okay, it's just theoretically for the taxpayer that has that has a septic and is non-wastewater, we just want to make sure that this is all done appropriately. Right? Okay,
Anyone else?
Yeah, I just wanna go back to posting for a second. Is there any way we can work that like they do the tax bills? And why do we have to send them out twice? We can't send out both of them at one time in the same envelope? The same time? We do that with I get two bills at once when I do my quarterlies for taxes. Why can't we just put two bills in one envelope and send them puppies out? Why send them twice?
it's a semi-annual bill, right?
It is. So what happens for the majority of residents in, so with sewer bill, if someone has an abatement, they have to pay their taxes, they have to pay the sewer bill. There's a process of paperwork gets filled out, a credit gets put on their account to be used on the next bill. So if you sent them both out in the same envelope, that credit wouldn't be applied to the second bill.
Or why? I mean, we know they're having a credit, so why is it?
Well, I think it would be left up to them to say, hey, look at, we send them a letter saying your abatement's approved or denied, so they know what the credit is. And they could just take it off their second bill on the front.
There you go.
Or
And we're out
or
with government,
the
we have to
first bill
take
the next
some
year.
responsibility.
It could be, yeah.
Yeah, or if they don't do it, then it goes to the first bill the next year.
Exactly. So it's a doable, but let me research that and just get back to you, make sure it's completely doable. It's a good idea.
Anyone else? Citizen speak. Is that, you got something?
May I just,
Okay,
I had one more item.
sure, so.
I've spoken to a few of you guys, about it in the past couple of weeks, and I'm not gonna be very detailed, but we live in a different world. Okay, and as you reflect on some of the events that have happened in the country, and I'll just use New Orleans as an example. We don't want something like that to happen to Great Barrington. So the police department, the fire department, and yourself have been meeting and talking about some of these items and how we can better serve and protect the community in times of a natural disaster, an accidental situation, or an intentional situation. These conversations, I think if we're looking to support, or if there's an entity coming into town looking to do something. Though, and we feel we need to protect them, we may think about asking them for the money. But I think we're doing an injustice by not. And for obvious reasons, you know, I get into detail. These costs with the budget tightening that we're all seeing, these costs aren't there, and some of these events are town events that you need to, you know, Memorial Day parades, things like that. I guess I'm asking two things. One, this money isn't in my budget, it isn't in the police department budget, it isn't in the fire department budget. But there's still some cost there to do a better job protecting our people. So, as you know, I guess I'm asking you guys as you're stepping back and the silos are coming down, to make sure we're prioritizing the things that need to be prioritized. So I guess that's what I'm at. I just throwing that out there. It's a real thing nowadays. All will be talking about it.
Yeah, we've been meeting, just having the conversations really to try to address possible situations to make sure that we're prepared to handle them, or, you know, to make sure that people are safe in the community. So with that in mind, just what Joe said, kind of keep that in mind, that we're living in a different time right now than we used to.
You know, and it's a risk management thing too. You know, within weeks of the incident down in the New Orleans, the city of New Orleans had lawsuits of failure to protect against them. We don't want that in here. We don't need those problems. And if you ask me how much money, I don't know. I mean, but we gotta start somewhere. And, we're trying to wrap our heads around it. We talked to the Selectboard. You know, I talked to the park commission. We really just have to build it into some of these people that are doing the functions, so they pay for that. But there's town functions that won't be covered, so I guess I'll leave you with that.
Thank you, Sam. One other thing. These stoplights that we put lights around, can you tell me what that cost us to do that?
The ones that flash,
The ones that we have that flash,
those are about $1,800 a piece.
$1,800.
Yeah.
But here's my thought on that. At first, I thought it was a great idea. Now I'm thinking about monies. It's cute, but I don't think it's needed now when I think about it. If people are going to, they know there's stop signs have been in existence forever without lights around them. And if someone's gonna run a stop sign, they're gonna run it whether the lights are flashing or not, but there's no one around. So, I mean, in the times of spending monies, we're spending $1,800 a piece for all of them. I'd rather not have them redone, if you will, or spend the money again on them. Because that's my feeling. Stop signs are stop signs. They've been around forever, and if they're gonna run them, they're gonna run.
So, we do talk about it as, you know, between the police department, police chief and myself. We took our high school intern and we set him up there at Easton Cottage Street, and we had him tally up, you know, people that can stop.
Mhm.
It's almost 90% of the people don't stop.
Right.
Right?
They're not gonna stop that, well, I'm gonna bet that they're not even regarding with the lights. That's not gonna make a difference. That's
We didn't do an
That won't
extensive, we had a guy up there for 2 days just counting that to see what kind of exposure we had. We didn't do it for 2 days again after, but we did it a short period of time, and the number was down to 50%. So maybe it's a new thing, maybe it hasn't worn off yet. I know at, Alfred Road or Division Street,
Mhm.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you.
you've seen a few accidents there. I think, you know, I was hearing about them, you know, 1 month. I haven't been hearing about them. Again,
I just
We
think
can do
we
whatever.
spend a lot of money in town, and we've gotten to where we have to cut other budgets.
Mhm.
Personally, I think that's a necessity when we're in budget time and we're having to cut back and maybe have to even cut someone's job.
Yeah.
I know the lights are nice, but, and maybe we can keep one, but I don't know, that's my.
Okay, Chris.
Discussion, I just had some housekeeping.
There
Yeah,
is
we're done with
someone has
discussion.
their hand.
Yeah, I see it, but I think Eileen was up because I said citizen speak and now.
Yeah, I just have one emergency question. For Joe, include that.
Okay, go ahead.
So just very quickly, is my memory correct that our emergency service, our emergency event headquarters is, I'm using the wrong terminology, but is the senior center?
Senior center, yeah. Wow, that's, yeah, last year.
You're talking about where we would house people, or you're talking where they would run?
Well, I think it's both, but more of a command center, I thought, yeah.
That's probably for the chief, not for.
Yeah, that would depend on the incident where it was gonna occur. We do have an emergency operations center at the police department, but we also have the ability to go mobile. So depending on where the event was in town, what the event was, would dictate where we would set up that command unit. And we also have access to the sheriff's department mobile command unit, which is a big
Okay.
vehicle camper type thing. It's all equipped with all the radios.
So odds are you wouldn't need the senior center for that, it's more of the emergency heating.
Right, that would be more like a shelter type thing for the citizens.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Chris, and then.
Okay. We're next meeting. Kitchen topics later. The school superintendent can come to the next meeting, which is the 18th. Can we start at 5?
When the next meeting is. what's the date?
Tuesday.
the 18th.
I could make it.
Great,
I can start at 5, yeah.
great.
Because it's gonna go long.
We'll, amend the agendas and do.
I'm gonna have to end the class early, though. The students would be devastated.
They'll probably provide money to us.
I'm gonna hand around for the eighteenth, the request from the Southern Berkshire Ambulance, which has their details.
Oh, that's great.
One picture.
Just pick one.
And then Eileen, I'll give you that.
I just wanted to mention one thing in regard to the flashing stop lights. I live on East Street. I've lived there for 45 years. I will say that our neighborhood has become flourishing with little people. The bus stop is right at that intersection. I have seen more people stopping than ever before. So I do think it's working. Again, like Joe said, I don't know if it's gonna be forever that it's working, but for right now, it has been an improvement for our town. I mean, for our intersection.
Eileen.
Oh, I thought that on the Conservation Commission budget, you said that you're going to be using, or you propose using, $20,000 from the Conservation Fund.
Yeah.
My understanding is that the Conservation Fund is strictly to acquire land. So I looked on the website and
It's a wetlands fund, Eileen.
It's not a land.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
It's called a wetlands fund. It's not the fund you're referring to. It's the wetlands fund.
Oh, okay, thank you.
I do one.
Go ahead, Doctor.
It something that always kind of concerns me, and I don't know if I've gotten a straight answer yet. And I don't mean that negatively, it sounds that way. Warming centers, that concerns me. And if I remember correctly, I remember speaking with Chris once and thought he had concern about making them known where they are. I think it needs to be known where they are, or else people aren't gonna be able to use them. I know we have some folks that are homeless, but that shouldn't preclude them from having a place that's warm. And I have no idea if we have them and where they actually are.
I can tell you, we do have them, those people that you probably referred to, we have made accommodations for them, when they want them. We've had people actually refuse them to try to accommodate them, to give them, a place on those really cold nights. We do try to put something out, when events do happen, there are some, the information is out on some other websites that people can access, but if they don't have access. They usually stop by the police department and ask us. And
Where are they, chief?
we can go to the police department during business hours. We have the senior center. Depending on the size, if we can't accommodate them, we can go to a bigger location. Thank you.
Isn't the library also?
The libraries are also.
Yeah, during the day. Yeah. It depends. We don't see a large need for it, luckily. But the few people that we do serve, we've been able to manage.
I always thought Picture South was also a place where they allowed people to come and get out of the elements, but I'm not positive about that. It was at one point when I worked there.
Eileen, your hand back on?
I'm trying to find information on the Wetlands Fund, because I don't think I ever heard of it before. So if somebody could steer me to that after the meeting, or provide it or something, please. Thank you.
Media time. Unanimous consent, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.